There was a time in the not-too-distant past when I would reference the fact that no guest on Toronto Mic'd had ever died. That lovely streak, unfortunately, came to an end when Andrew Crystal passed away. And since then, we've lost Tom Stephen from the Jeff Healey Band, Hal Harbour from CFNY, Bob Segarini from Chum FM, Q107, and City TV, and Al Mayer from Attic Records. Now, I've learned Myles Goodwyn has passed away at the age of 75. Myles was the lead vocalist, guitarist, and principal songwriter for April Wine. And in May 2021, I was lucky enough to spend over an hour with him as we talked at length about April Wine, getting snubbed by the Junos, going solo, and much more. Here is an extended excerpt from episode 845 of Toronto Mic'd. Myles Goodwyn will be missed.
Sitting now in a very comfortable chair.
Okay.
I got my feet up on an ottoman.
All right. So
let's do this.
All right. So get ready to go in the time machine, Myles, and then we'll bring us up to speed. And again, I got some great jams I'm going to play. Everybody loves what you're doing on the music front. But the first question, as if you've never been asked before, but I'm going to credit listener Mike Gregotsky with this question because he sent it in. He wants me to ask you about the origins of your band name. I'm talking about April Wine. Like, where did the name April Wine come from?
Well, one of the fellows in the original band came up with the name, and it doesn't mean anything, and that was the purpose of the name. Because we were four writers, and we're actually coming from four different places. I was more of a rocky blues, and some of the other guys were more experimental. Another fellow was more into acoustic stuff. So we just, he just said, why don't we get a name that doesn't mean anything at all? Like Led Zeppelin implies heavy, Black Sabbath. It's like, right. But April Wine doesn't really mean anything, and so that was the idea. I never really cared for the song at the title, the name of the band at the time, but it wasn't a big whoop for me, either way. So that's the origin. I mean, sometimes it was really odd in the early days. We would literally check into a hotel somewhere, a motel somewhere, and they would want to know where she is. Like, okay, I have a reservation for April Wine. Is she here now? We say, yeah, right. That's us. But. Right. But anyway, once it doesn't matter what you call a band. It just depends on what you do with the group, right? And now April Wine makes a lot of sense. And much better.
And now, of course, yeah. Like now, when we think April Wine, we think great jams, right? So now that I've got you kind of jogging your memory back to the name origin, give us a taste of what it was like when you started the band. And I'm curious what it was like up to the release of Could Have Been a Lady. Like maybe just share some memories of those days starting the band.
Well, we got together in 1969, and we weren't. We all got together here down in Halifax, Nova Scotia. There were three Henmans. There were two brothers, David and Richie Henman, and there was a cousin, Jim Henman, and myself. And we were, I don't remember exactly what month exactly we first got together, but it was in the summer and later the fall kind of thing. And by the next spring, by April 1st exactly, we left Nova Scotia for Montreal. But during that first period that we were together, we just did some local shows down in Halifax, and one of the things that was important to me when they came to me and asked me to be part of the group was that we write our own material. I was tired of playing in cover bands, and they said, okay, we'll do our own material, and so we went forward with that, and then we came up to Montreal, like I said, on April 1st, 1970, and met up with some people that we would be associated with for a very long time, and that was Aquarius Records and Terry Flood Management and a company called Promotivations with Bob Lamb and so forth. So we kind of settled into Montreal. We didn't intend to, but just when we got here, there was so much going on for us at that time that we just became a band based out of Montreal for years and years and years.
Now,
And then
go ahead.
then we got our first record deal in '71 and released our very first record, which had a hit in Canada called Fast Train, which I wrote, and then the following album in 2072 had "You Could Have Been a Lady," which was a cover of a Hot Chocolate, the band Hot Chocolate covered one of their songs.
Now, Could Have Been a Lady, you mentioned, of course, Hot Chocolate cover, which, by the way, I'll be honest with you, Myles, until last week when I was doing some homework on April Wine for this conversation, I thought Could Have Been a Lady was your song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, a lot of people did. I mean, the whole thing is that it didn't do anything here. It wasn't known here at all.
Right.
Hot Chocolate had You Sexy Thing, which was an international hit, so people know that song, but they don't know You Could Have Been a Lady. So they wouldn't know it until we did it, and it kind of became our own. But April One's been known for covers. We've done covers over the years. Most of our material is original, but
right.
we have done songs like that, or Bad Side of the Moon, which is an Elton John song, and some others.
Now, Could Have Been a Lady. Can you give us a sense of what it was like when that took off for you? Because, in Canada, massive hit, but that was a hit beyond the borders of Canada, right?
Well, it was the first song of ours that was charted on Billboard and Cashbox at the time. It wasn't in the top 20 even, but it was in the top. It was in the 30s, I guess. Was like 38 or something. I forget how high it got on the charts. But that was our first successful song out across the border. In the U.S. I don't think it did anything in Europe, but it did well enough in North America.
And I mean, at that time, that was quite the feat for a Canadian band. It wasn't commonplace at that time for a Canadian band to crack the top 40 on Billboard Hot 100.
Well, yeah. I mean, not the way it is now, but I mean, there were other people doing it. The Guess Who, for example, and there were a lot of bands that came before us. They weren't necessarily the same kind of band. I mean, Gordon Lightfoot was doing very well down there, and
True.
And and others, but there weren't too many rock / pop bands or whatever you want to, that were doing that well down there. There weren't many. A lot of us tried. Nothing really happened, but those things were slowly changing.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Bad Side of the Moon, which just like Could Have Been a Lady, that's still a CanCon rock staple. I hear it all the time on classic rock radio. Now, Bad Side of the Moon, as I think you mentioned, it's an Elton John song. I have a question from Tim Phelan. Tim wants me to ask you, did you ever meet Elton John? And if you did, what did Elton think of your version of Bad Side of the Moon?
Seems as though I've lived my life on the bad side of the moon. Just stir your drags and sickness still without a rustic spoon. Now come on people, live with me where the light has never shone, and the hornets flock like hummingbirds speaking in a foreign tongue. Is my life, is my life, is my life, my life. Is my life, is my life, is my life, my life. It seems as though I've lived my life on the bad side of the moon. Stir your dregs and sickness still without a rustic spoon. Now come on people, live with me where the light has never shone. The hornets flock like hummingbirds speaking in a foreign tongue. I'm a lot world away from the people who make me stay. Sitting on the bad side of the moon. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. There ain't no need for words nor tears to justify our ways. We live our lives in manacles, the main cause of our stay. An exile here from other worlds, my sentence comes too soon. Why should I be made to pay on the bad side of the moon? I'm a life world away from the people who make me stay. Sitting on the bad side of the moon. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life, it's my life, it's my life, my life. It's my life, it's my life,
Yeah, I've never met him. I've been in this Olympic Studios in England when I was over there around 1980, and I was in the Olympic Studios, and I sat at the very piano and played the piano that he used on his first a couple of recordings with all those classic early Elton John songs, which was a thrill for me to think that the man sat here, played this very piano. It was very impressive, but I never did meet him, so I don't know how he felt about that song, our version.
I always say that if you're born too late, I think I was born a little too late for the April Wine heyday, if you will. But if you were born too late and then you listen to, some April Wine discography, you dive in, you have no idea how many songs you actually know, but you weren't exactly sure they were April Wine jams. One song, like a staple of my life, I've been hearing it forever, is Roller. Roller, what a ass kicking jam that is! Like what a hard rock, it's just tremendous. Maybe share a little bit about how you came to write Roller.
Well, Roller was written after a trip down to Las Vegas, and just the idea that there was a lady that all she wanted to do was gamble, kind of thing. And I was always so. It was a great guitar riff. the one that that opens the song and is throughout the song. So that when I found that musically, I realized that this was good, and then I had the idea for the lady that that gambles, has a gambling problem, if you will. She's a high roller, maybe 7 come 11 or blackjack and all that kind of casino lingo thrown in for good measure. And anyway, I went to Vegas for the first time in, I think it was 1975, or maybe just a little bit later, and I had that idea running around until I actually started writing the song. And the arrangement changed a great deal. When I think of that song, what I think of mostly is two things. One, that is one of the few songs that we took on the road and played live before we recorded it. And I found there were too many changes, that it wasn't settled long enough in any one part of the song. So I simplified it by about half. So there's a lot of that, kind of linear kind of feel going on. It's in the key of E, by the way. And just pumping that low E, don't, and every now and then going the changes. And by simplifying the song, it had a new life, and it worked so much better live. And I said, well, this is the version we might have to record. And the other thing too is I used to write songs for tours, and I've done that a number of times to say, okay, we need to start our tour with a new song. So I'd write like Anything You Want, You Got It, or some kind of, so I Like to Rock, with that whole intro. And in Roller, it was the same thing. And I wanted to write a song that would finish the show. So I threw in all the bye, 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 byes at the end that you hear in the song. And so it kind of came together like that.
Amazing. And that was I guess that was another U.S. hit. I guess your first since Could Have Been a Lady, but that cracked the top 40 on the Billboard Hot 100 too.
Yeah, that was an international hit. Yeah, that was on First Glance. That broke us everywhere. Yes. Yeah, with that song.
Amazing. Now, I'm going to take you back to March 1977. So April Wine is booked to play a charity concert at the El Macombo. Shout out to the Elmo. And I guess there was a co-headliner on this bill, some band called the Cockroaches. Can you tell us a little about, who are these Cockroaches, and tell us a little bit about this gig at the Elmo?
Yeah, at the El Macombo. Yeah, that was fun. That was with the Rolling Stones, and they called themselves the Cockroaches. But they had been in Montreal to do a show here not long before that. I don't know the exact date, but they had a show at the Montreal Forum, and one of their trucks was blown up, literally blown up, and their equipment destroyed. Wow. And so they were looking for additional equipment, that they no longer had, And so April Wine lent them a bunch of our stuff so they could do the show at the Forum. And they didn't forget that. So when they decided to record some live music at different venues in North America, including the El Macombo, so they booked it for 3 days, and they wanted a band to open up for them. But they didn't want to let the people know that it was actually the Rolling Stones. Of course, that wouldn't last very long, but at least there was one night where people weren't sure what was going on, but they knew that April Wine would sell out the venue anyway.
Right.
So it was just booked as April Wine, period. There was no mention of Cockroaches, anything. April Wine, El Macombo, and of course it sold out. And when people arrived, they found that there were Rolling Stones were the headliners on those. On that night and
wow.
and the next night. Yeah.
Well, you're part of history there, and you I know you record this your performance, because that's live at the El Macombo.
That's right. Yeah, and the engineer for that was Eddie Kramer, who was known, I guess, mostly for Jimi Hendrix, the best of Jimi Hendrix. He was the producer for all of that. And, of course, many other, from Led Zeppelin to Kiss to April Wine to many, many bands. He's still very active. So it was nice to be able to work with the Stones and to work with Eddie Kramer. Yeah, it was really cool. And then the Stones took us down to Boston after that, right, in front of 40,000 people or whatever, maybe 30,000 people, whatever they had down there. So they took us into the States as well. So it was really nice.
And that sort of opened some doors in terms of, being with bands, I'm thinking like Styx or Rush. Like these are, you open after you open for the Stones, you can open for these other big league bands.
Yeah, we worked with a lot of bands. Yeah, a lot of bands at that time. We opened for a lot of people, and people opened for us, depending on how it goes. And that was nice because that Roller really opened the door for us to go down to the States. Of course, the Elma Combo was before Roller.
Oh, right.
And that didn't really open a lot of doors for us, but Roller did.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's because I didn't live it. I switched up the chronology there. But here's something I'm certain of. So when MTV launches in the States, this is August 1981. You in April Wine, you guys have the, I guess you're in the history books. Like, this is kind of a fun bar trivia question. Like, name the first Canadian recording artist ever played on MTV. And that was you guys when they played Just Between You and Me. I think it was the 14th video they played that day.
Between you and me, baby, I know our love will be just between you and me. Always, I know our love will be just between you and me. Lovers often seem to say hearts can be blind to love gone astray. Always it's the same old song. Someone's been hurt by a love that's gone wrong. Just between you and me, baby, I know just between you and me. Always I know our love will be just between you and me.
Well, you might be right, and my memory's wrong because I thought it was Enough Is Enough.
Oh, I'll have to check out the crack research staff because I believe it's just between you and me, but you might know better than I do.
Well, you know what? I don't I don't profess to have a perfect memory. You know, I learned a long time ago that I'll never say oh, I'm positive. You know, because there's always I'm not sure, but you know the way I remember there's a song that they played again and again, and they still at the anniversary of the beginning of MTV, they still include that in their playlist every year, and it's Enough Is Enough. I don't know about Just Between You and Me. Matter of fact, I'm trying to think of which came first, which of those two songs, or if they were both on the same album. And I that would answer our question. I know Just Between You and Me was on The Nature of the Beast, and Enough I think is I don't know, maybe that's on I Like to Rock or It's First Glance. Quite honestly, I don't recall. So one of us is right, one of us is wrong.
Now, okay, so as we're like. Again, I'll speak to Generation X for a moment because the boomers listening are like fanatical. I work with a gentleman named Humble Howard, and he is half of a morning show duo called Humble and Fred. And in fact, Humble, you're actually booked, and I have to revisit this with the guys because it's booked as a Zoom, and I have to figure out how we could get it so you can call in next week. But
right.
Humble Howard, the first concert he ever saw as a teenager in Moose Jaw was April Wine, and you know, when he was learning to play guitar, it was April Wine. Like when I told him he might be able to talk to Myles Goodwyn, honestly, I've never seen a reaction like this. So for the boomers out there, they know. But I'm going to speak to Generation X for a moment, who are kind of just know could have been a lady in some of the CanCon rock staples and should learn more because this is a sneaky deep catalog you got, my friend. But you guys never won a Juno. How is it possible April Wine never won a Juno Award?
I don't know that. You know, I mean, we do have a Juno for Hall of Fame lifetime, whatever they call that.
Canadian Music Hall of Fame in 2010. You got inducted, thankfully, finally. But 11 nominations.
You know, I don't
Junos.
know. People have never been able to really figure that out. I mean, awards are very particular things, and they don't really typically mean much. I mean, there's sometimes, of course, if you win an Oscar, your career takes off. If you're, sometimes it doesn't either. Right. But it's a great launching, thing for your career. And winning a Grammy is also, it can mean a lot to your career, or it could be nothing. It really depends on the artist, the talent, and the people with them, and good luck and the rest of it.
Right.
And Juno was kind of like that. I mean, there was so many. There was a period of time, and I don't want to knock the Junos, but for a time it was a joke.
Right.
And what happened, and I'm quite honest about this, and I'm sure of what I'm saying. There was a period of time where someone won a Juno and was never heard of again. And it happened time and time again. So it was like, oh God, don't let me win a Juno. That'll be the end of my career. Right. That was a running joke. I mean, I remember one time we lost to a duo called Myles and Lenny. We never heard from them again. And there were a lot of artists. There was a string there, a number of years. And of course, and if that wasn't happening, then Anne Murray won everything. She'd
right.
have a dump and she'd win a Juno. But and of course the Rush, and not saying that those two artists and others don't deserve it, but it was just a given.
Right.
If Anne Murray's in the mix, and she wins. Because she was wonderful, and she still is wonderful, and Rush are incredible, and so forth. And so either like the same people won all the time. And there was a period of time for several years where if he won, he never, it was a kiss of death.
Right.
But, people have tried to figure out why in the world, April, because we would be nominated for Album of the Year, Group of the Year, Song
11
of the Year,
nominations.
Graphics.
You're like the Susan Lucci of the Junos.
Yeah, it was crazy. And let's not fool ourselves. There was politics too, It really helps, and it did. I can't say that's the same anymore. It really helped to be in Toronto. I know there are people in groups in Toronto that again get exceptional coverage and everything else because they're there. They're playing, they're playing touch football, and they're playing on the hockey team with all the radio people and all.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is I know how it is, and April Wine was always a very private band out of Quebec, out of Montreal. We didn't socialize. I mean, I've been a running joke for years. I'm very, very private. I don't leave home after dark unless I'm paid. So it's like it's a combination of a whole bunch of things, and there was also a very big misunderstanding between Walt Grealis and the band one time when somebody wrote something on a fishbowl. It was an old quote from what's his name? I can't remember now. Don't drink the water, fish bleep in it. That old thing. Right. And W.C. Fields said it. And anyway, somebody did that and blamed April Wine. Of course, it wasn't true at all. And Walt Grealis got really. If you know who Walt Grealis is.
Help me out. I'm trying.
Okay, he started the whole Junos. So anyway, he got really, really upset, and we were kind of, I would say, we were blackballed for at least 2 or 3 years. So that didn't help things. And no matter how we tried to straighten out the fact that the real facts that it wasn't us at all, it was somebody else, and it was just really too bad it happened at all. But reflecting poorly on the band wasn't appropriate because it had nothing to do with the group. As a matter of fact, I have I wrote my memoirs in I forget what year, 2017, I think it was, around there, called Just Between You and Me.
Yes.
And this is discussed, and it's very, very clear that we had nothing to do with that actual event. But I think we paid the price with the Juno committee for at least a few years.
Well, thankfully, on April 18th, 2010, you did finally get inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. So what did that mean to you? What is that?
Well, I mean, it really, I got to be really honest with you here. Again, my feeling towards Juno, about awards in particular, if you really, if you believe in them too much, I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think if you're nominated and you lose, you should be really all that disappointed. I mean, of course, a bit. Yeah, I get it. Or if you win, you shouldn't be too big a deal. It's like they don't go extreme either way on these things, because the fact that you're flavor of the month or something, something happened that you win an award that particular year. It's so much more important to have longevity, to be respected by your peers and your fans. So when I finally got to Juno, it was like, well, in my mind, it was about bloody time. And really, for me, it was validation for the fans. I mean, how do the fans feel? They've supported us. Like we broke so many records over the years. We're the first group to go platinum. We're the first group to go platinum. We have so many firsts in our career, but we were ignored. And the fans got to say after a while, geez, did I believe in this band when I shouldn't have? Are they really not that good? Are they not worthy?
Right.
And I used to feel really bad for the fans. As a matter of fact, when we won, when we were presented with this Lifetime Achievement, or whatever it's called, I said to the Juno committee, Karis, I said, I want it presented by two people. And I said, one of them has to be a fan. And they said, oh, that's never been done. We can't have that. And I said, well, I don't want it then.
Oh.
I said, no, I want two people to present this. I said, I want a fan. And I have another person I have in mind, and that's my good friend for a long time, Barry Stock from 3 Days Grace.
Right.
And, he was a friend of mine. He was he worked with April Wine as a roadie for a long time, but he went out with 3 Days Grace, and, they've sold millions of records.
Sure.
They're doing fantastic, and they still are. And he's a dear friend. So I said, I'd like Barry Stock and a fellow named Dave Cameron to present it. And I had a fight back and forth. And I said, this is about the fans. Why would you not allow a fan to be part of the presentation?
Right.
And eventually they said, okay. Now, he was at the time working for the military. He was working on planes and so forth in the Air Force Division of Armed Forces for Canada. and he's big April wine fan and a wonderful guy. He's still a good friend of mine, and he runs our website, by the way.
Oh, good.
And I said, Dave, I said, you have to come in uniform. And he said, Myles, they won't let me wear the uniform.
Oh.
And I said, that's crazy. I said, how much? Think of the goodwill.
Right.
To you to come out there as the armed forces and a rocker and a fan of April wine, how wonderful that would be for a PR for the armed forces of Canada.
Right.
And he said, yeah, but they won't allow it. I said, okay, well, then you come on without the uniform. So he did. And then he told me a few months later that they told him at his, somebody there at the base said that they had made a big mistake and they wish they had allowed him to go on with the uniform. It would have been a good thing.
Right.
And of course, it was too late. But there's so much red tape. And, nobody wanted to take the responsibility of saying, yeah, sure, let him wear his uniform. They're so terrified of losing, their jobs or their, or whatever it is that just keeps them in the box, thinking inside the box, if you know what I mean. So, but at the end of the day, all I can say is I'm very proud of getting this special Juno. I'm happy for the fans. Very happy for the fans, most of all.
Yes.
And also, it's nice for my family and my friends to see, Myles, Dad, April wine got this recognition finally. So at the end of the day, it's all a good thing.
Well, speaking of the fans, I tweeted if anyone had a question for you because you were coming on, and I got several responses from big fans of yours. One, Midtown Gord, big fan of your work, Myles, and April wine, and he says, if you don't mind, maybe you can ask Myles what the secret is for him and Brian Greenway to have stayed together and worked together so well these last 40 plus years.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Brian's a great guitar player, right? And he's a friend. I was talking to him today about something, and even though April wine is off the road indefinitely because of COVID, but we're still friends, and we just work well together. We don't hang out together. We don't socialize at all. Maybe that's part of the success. I don't know.
Right.
I only see him when we gig.
Well, that'll work.
Pardon me?
I said that'll work actually, because you don't get sick of each other.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. So that's part of it. But there would never, there's been never any reason for Brian not to be part of that group. As a matter of fact, when April wine went on a hiatus for 9 years, he was still involved on that very last studio album that we did down in the Bahamas when the band had broken up. But I owed the record company another April wine album, and if I didn't deliver, there would be all kinds of legal action and so forth. So I was in the Bahamas, and I said, well, I got to deliver another album to get out of this contract and get on with life. And it was called Walking Through Fire. And so I asked Brian to come down to the Bahamas, and we did it down in Nassau, down there. And so Brian as soon as the band got back together and started recording again in the early 90s with Attitude, I called Brian right away. And so Brian's always been part of anything that's been April wine since he joined in 1977.
Awesome. And Mike Rogotsky just wants to say he saw April wine at the CNE and at Lulu's in the 90s, and that both shows were fantastic.
Well, good. I'm glad you like them.
So shout out to April wine. Ty Cat Pat, I guess that means he's from Hamilton, but Ty Cat Pat says, ask Myles, what was the greatest or most memorable concert lineup that April wine was ever a part of?
Well, I guess he means like festivals.
Yeah, I think he means festivals, yeah.
Well, it's a weird thing, and people might not understand this. You just have to be there. But sometimes you don't remember anything, any specific things. Like I see posters now where I go, oh my God, like Cheech and Chong were on that bill, or I didn't realize that Neil Young was on there.
Right.
And these are festival events that last 3 days. Like there's a California Jam we did once, and sometimes you just you come in before you perform, an hour or so before, and you're so busy getting ready and nervous and everything else, and you're kind of doing your own thing, and then you go on and you do your thing, and then you get off, and then you got to deal with whatever,
Right.
Immediately after that, all the reality of the business of it, and so forth, and then the next thing you know, you're heading out of the area, and somebody else is coming in, and you would think that if I think your average listener here would think that, well, if you knew there were like 12 bands or 10 bands that day, why don't you just come in early, just watch the whole thing, do your thing, and just continue watching, right?
Right.
Just to soak it all in. But in reality, it doesn't always work that way, and especially if it's a 2 or 3 day event, you miss a lot. But we've been on the same festivals, at the same time, more or less. Many times, and you don't really get to see other groups. So, but I do know that when we were in England once, we played with Neil Young and a group called with Robert Fripp, King Crimson.
Right.
And I remember King Crimson coming over, some of the guys at King Crimson coming over and saying that they loved our version of 21st Century Schizoman that we did. And that was really nice. If you know what I'm talking about, King Crimson had an album called Court of the Crimson King that came out in about 1969, give or take, and right about there. And I wore that album to death. And I said to April Wine, I said, one day I'd love to do this song. It's extremely complicated.
Yes.
And it's really a big challenge for a 4-piece or 5-piece band. 4 guitars and a drummer. To do this, but I want to do it, and we did our version of it, and it became, some people call it a classic April Wine song, and like it better than King Crimson. But to have the original guys in England that day come over and say, "Wow, we love your version," was a special moment I remember.
Well, just this morning I recorded with Mark Hebsher. We do a sports podcast called Hebsy on Sports, and that cover of the King Crimson cover you're referring to there by April Wine he brought it up as his very favorite thing you've ever done. So it's definitely a classic.
Oh, good.
Very good. Now, and then I want to get to solo Myles Goodwyn, so that's coming right now. But first, Indie Can Radio just wants you to know that the album cover of Electric Jewels was part of his wall art back in the day. So shout out to Indie Can Radio. Okay,
cool. Very cool, yeah.
Solo. Okay, so what happens? Why does Myles Goodwyn go solo? And I ask you that as like an A. And B, I just recently had Lee Aaron on the program finally, and I know you had a hit with her in 1988. Do you know what I mean? So maybe talk about the first solo album and why you went solo.
Well, I mean, I've been tethered to April Wine since 1969, right up until 1985.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time. And things weren't going well, and I can't get into all of that right now, but, it's in my book, in my memoir, just between you and me, but on HarperCollins. But anyway, we broke up. I call it a hiatus because 9 years later, I was back from the Bahamas. I was here, and I started getting requests for a new April Wine album, especially as odd, but out of California, as a matter of fact. But anyway, I ended up doing an album called Attitude in '92. But I'd been with April Wine so long that when it broke up, and I did Walking Through Fire, and I was then living in the Bahamas, and it was done. My contract was done, and I wanted to do something different because I still have that thing that I want to write and I want to record, and I still have it, and I still do write and record all the time. And so I want to do something different. What I was hearing on the radio was very, very different from April Wine. We were just the classic rock format with guitars and drums. But I was hearing all these other things, and this was the time when a lot of people were working with drum machines and keyboards and sampling, and Michael Jackson was like king, and all these British bands and different bands, and it was, and this would be before grunge, but there was a period there was a lot of the stuff going on. Even great artists like Bowie, right, was doing stuff in the style of what was going on then. And I said, I've never done anything like this, and I've done some keyboard stuff. I wrote Like a Lover, Like a Song, or Wouldn't Want to Lose Your Love, and some other things, but I've never really experimented with all of the technology and all of the sounds that's going on right now. And I said, I think I would like to do that. So I did. And it was simply called Myles Goodwyn, and I don't remember what year it came out. I think it was 87. And I had a great time. I had a ball. And I'm still proud of the album. I don't regret it at all. April Wine's fans didn't like it because it wasn't April Wine-ish. It was something different, but
right,
that's fine with me. And anyway, there was a Lee. So Lee and Aaron, I had that song that I did with her, Do You Know What I Mean, is a cover song, of course. And so I called her. I know her to be a great voice.
Yes. And
she's a great rocker.
Lee Aaron, by the way, you might know this, but that was the name of her band. She just assumed the name of her band because she was a Karen, and then her band was called Lee Aaron, and she just sort of like Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper was the band, and then he just took the name. So,
yeah, I didn't know that. I know that that's not her name, even if it was her stage name. That right, her real name is something else. Right. And I don't even remember anymore. I used to know.
Well, it's Karen. I don't know the last name or anything, but Karen.
Yeah, Karen.
Yes.
Karen. Yeah, Karen. So I think that's what I called her, Karen, back in the day when I reached out to her. I didn't call her Lee, but anyway, whatever. But she's still, like, as far as I know, she's performed somewhat. She's just a great singer.
Oh yeah,
well, wonderful.
How's
voice.
This for a segue, Myles? I would say Lee Aaron has the voice of an angel, and what I'm going to do in post here is I'm going to play "Will the Last Voice I Hear Be an Angel?" because that's the new single by Myles Goodwyn. It's available now. Tell us about the new album. So I'm dying to know more information about your new work here. I think it's called Long Pants.
It is called Long Pants, yes, and it's a collection of songs. Like some people that know about it are referring it to a songwriter's album, if you will. I don't know. It's a collection of songs. The oldest one goes back to when my daughter was born 40 years ago, and her name is Amber, and the song's called Forever Amber. And I came. She was the night she was born. I came home from the hospital. I went right into the studio, exhausted. And I wrote the entire song, every word, every note. An hour after I got home. And,
wow!
I recorded it on a cassette.
Sure.
Which I still have, and my family, Amber, and my sons, and so forth, have always said, Dad, when are you going to record and release this song, because it's so beautiful? And I said, I can't put that on an April Wine album, so I don't know. And so 40 years later, wow, I'm recording it, and and I have a song for each of my children. I have a song about life and death, and I've got some humor on the album. There's a drinking song, and one about kittens, and there's one about the single that's out right now is that's gone out to radio, and the response to it on the appropriate stations for what I'm doing at this time are playing it. So it's really good. You're really happy about that.
Will the last voice I hear be an angel? Will I leave this world peacefully? Will the last voice I hear be an angel, Lord, saying, take my hand and walk with me? The road I've walked wasn't always kind, and Lord, you know that's true. And now all I want is peace of mind, and to one day be with you. I remember the days of summers as a young child long, long ago. And although much has changed, in ways I'm still the same as that young boy I used to know. These days I worry some about my past and the things I've done. Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, I pray you'll never turn me away. Will the last voice I hear be an angel? Will I leave this world peacefully? Will the last voice I hear be an angel, Lord, saying, take my hand and walk with me? Will the last voice I hear be an angel? Will I leave this world peacefully? Will the last voice I hear be an angel, Lord, saying, take my hand and walk with me? Saying, take my hand and walk with me.
But it's a friend of mine called it a prayer.
Mm.
I'm not a religious guy. I'm just not. In all of April One's career time, I've avoided politics and religion. I won't talk about either one of them. Even with my friends, it's something I avoid because it seems to be kind of a no-win kind of conversation. So I leave that alone. But this is a spiritual song. And I did, there's a thing called the Christmas Daddy Show down in Halifax, where I live now. And it's an annual event that's been around for many, many, many years. And I've done it, the last several years because I'm back in town and they asked me to do it, and I love doing it. I did an Ian McClellan song called Put Your Hand in the Hand, which was very successful and covered by, of course, Anne-Marie. I think it was most successful with it, but many people have done that. So I did a version of that with my acoustic trio. And it went over so well, I came home and I thought about it. I said, boy, this people really like this kind of thing, this spiritual kind of song. I wonder if I could write one. And in a day or so, I came up with the chorus, and I went and I played it for my partner, and she loved it. And I said, well, maybe I do have a song here. And it actually brought a tear to her eye when I played it for her, because she is religious. And I said, if anybody's going to tell me how they feel about it, it's going to be her. And she loved it. And then a couple of days later, I got an email, a request from Los Angeles, asking me if I would be a judge on a international spiritual songwriting contest.
Oh, wow.
Well, I almost fell out of my chair. I called them the next day, and I said, why in the world, would you ask me to do something like this at this time or at all? And she said, well, we just really respect your songwriting. And I said, wow, that's really cool. I said, it's funny because I just started writing my very first spiritual, so
wow,
that's crazy good. So I said, I'm going to say yes. So I became a judge on this international spiritual songwriting contest, and it's over now. And I cast my vote and everything else. And I finished the song not long after I spoke to them. So it all came together in a very cool way. And so it's the first song from the album Long Pants. So Long Pants, like I say, is a collection of songs, or songs for adults, if you will. Mature people, and it's been a labor of love. That's years and years. I finally putting all the music and the words and thoughts into a project. So that's very cool. And the long pants means like adults versus short pants, which would be children.
Right.
It's just that kind of connection. Short pant, long pants. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So the single that's available right now, "Will the Last Voice I Hear Be an Angel," and Long Pants. Just summer. Do we have a release date, or is it just summer 2021? We can get our hands on.
No, sometime in the summer. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have to finish up, finish the writing process, which is well on its way. But I have to finish that and then book the studio and go in and do all of that kind of stuff. But once I get rolling, it'll come together quickly. So it'll come out probably towards the end of the summer, I would imagine. Yeah.
And of course, final question here. By the way, thanks so much for your time. I've really, really enjoyed chatting with you, Myles. But when this pandemic ends, assuming this does end in a better end, because I'm sick of it, but when the pandemic ends, will April Wine hit the road?
Well, it's a really good question. I was talking to Brian about this today. There are different camps, different thoughts about this. Some people feel that with the vaccines, once everybody gets vaccinated, that we're going to be good to go. Things will be more or less the way they were before. And the optimists believe like next year will be a very different scenario. And then there's those that believe that it's going to take a long, long, long time. And that no one person is safe until everyone is safe. And it's a global thing, and that in most places, if not all places, it's worse now than it was when it began. Even in Nova Scotia, where I live now, like we had 182 brand new cases yesterday. A month ago, we might have one new case.
Well, the variants are here.
The variants kicked in, and some people behaving very badly, and it just spread like crazy. So now we're in complete lockdown, and which was a very safe place to be right now is not quite as safe as it was. And see what's happening in India, and of course there are a whole gang, millions of people, many people that don't believe in wearing masks and social distancing or any of that. And of course that's not helping anything. So I don't know. Will April Wine perform again when it's safe to put it that way? It's safe to get on a plane. It's safe to be able to play venues that make sense where there a lot of people more or less shoulder to shoulder the way it was. I don't know. I don't know how long that's going to take. Part of me tells me that that it'll be too late for us. I'm in my 70s now, and I still rock. I can still hit the notes and roller. And I'm like a lot of bands that have been around as long as I have, or April Wine has been around, that are, in their 60s and even into their early 70s. You know that. I mean, It is. I mean, the Rolling Stones continue to play. It's in our DNA. Something, I was talking to Bryan Adams a couple of days ago, and he called me here about something about that he's involved with, and asked me if I would be part of it, and I said that I would. And we talked briefly about how it's in our DNA, and like the first time he saw April Wine was in Kingston. He's from Kingston back
Right.
in 74 or 5 or something like that. He was young. He's younger than I am, and he was talking how wonderful that was, and he wanted to know what's that timing in Say Hello. That song you're saying, what kind of timing is that? And I don't know, Brian. I don't know. I just write them. I don't know what the timing is, but anyway. We do it. A lot of us do it because we love to do it, and as long as I can remember, as long as I honestly can remember, I've always loved music and play guitar when I was a little kid. I still have the first guitar I ever had in my entire life.
Oh, good for you.
I still have that guitar, and and I released in the last few years. You're talking about solo records. I released Myles Goodwyn, Friends of the Blues, 2018. And it's not because, all of a sudden, I can't rock, so I'll play blues or country music or something. I mean, like some people do that. I just did it because I'm a fan of blues songs. I'm a songwriter and I'm a fan of songs. And a big influence was Taj Mahal. His very first record I bought around the same time as King Crimson. I played it to death, and I still own the original copy. And
Wow.
and I love B.B. King, The Thrill Is Gone. I just love blues songs. And I've been, April Wine. I've had blues flavored stuff in our stuff for years, and of course, blues was a big influence, like bands like Led Zeppelin and all kinds of people, Eric Clapton and so forth. So, Rolling Stones, of course, and so forth. So, I decided that I was going to finally do a blues album of songs, and wouldn't you know it, first release, nominated for Blues Album of the Year at the Junos.
Right.
Not bad. 69-year-old to come out with a brand new direction and to be nominated as one of the best of the year.
Awesome.
I lost to Colin James. Of course, we always lose to Colin when he comes out, apparently.
Love Colin. He's
one
been
of those
over.
things. Oh, Colin, if Anne Marie does a blues album, well, the rest of us are screwed.
That's right. That's right.
But anyway, and then I did a second, and of course, it was that album won the East Coast Music Award Blues Album of the Year, and it was the top 40 blues charts in the year. This was an international success. I mean, I was in the top 40 for over a year in the States, and then I did Friends of the Blues 2 the following year, and the same kind of success, pretty much. Won awards and was played everywhere, and now I'm going to do this solo album called Long Pants.
Right.
And the next blues album is well on its way. I don't know, it's not going to come out this year. And finally, there's been a request for an April Wine album for a long time. Our last studio album was 15 years ago, and this year, 21 is exactly 50 years since our very first release in November. I think it was November or September, with Fast Train in 1971. So it's exactly 50 years ago. So I called the guys and I said, "You want to do an April Wine album? Because I've got all the time in the world now. I get up in the morning and I get my coffee and I wrap myself around the guitar, and I do that almost every single day. It's just like, okay, when am I going to write this morning? What direction am I going to try and go?" And so I've been working on a new April Wine album. I'm actually, slap on the Marshall, crank onto the strap on my Les Paul, turn on the Marshall in my recording studio and rock, and it's fun.
Amazing.
It's really fun. I haven't done it in a long time, and it's coming along. So I hope there'll be a brand new studio album. If not at the very end of the year, then sometime next year.
Amazing. Good for you, man. Now you mentioned Bryan Adams, so I know I lied. I said that was my last question, but this is my real last question, which is, were you invited to be a part of Tears Are Not Enough in 1985?
No.
Well, that's bullshit. Like, I'm part of me, but shouldn't you have got the call?
Well, the thing is, April Wine has been ignored in Canada in terms of those kinds of things, like forever, and I don't think it'll ever change. Like, I see all kinds, like, here's something, and I don't want to be known as sour grapes and complaining. I mean, I wrote a song called Rock and Roll is a Vicious Game. and it became an April Wine classic, and it was played, outside of Canada, just everywhere. If you didn't, I don't know if you know the song, but anyway, it's and in the Canadian music industry at the time said, "Oh, Myles, it's sour grapes. He's complaining because he's never won a Juno." Rah, rah, rah. And I'm going, no, it's got nothing to do with that. I mean, I just thought about Elvis Presley. I thought about Janis Joplin. I thought about Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, or whoever,
Sure.
all of these people that just, the lifestyle killed them. And I said, more importantly, and that's in the song, that idea's in the song, but even more importantly to me, the Rock and Roll's Vicious Game is all of the people that couldn't succeed in the business. Be the people, the regular people that just loved, singing and playing and writing songs more than anything, but they didn't make it. They just it didn't happen for them. Either they just didn't have enough talent, or bad breaks, or for whatever reason.
Right.
I consider April Wine, to be lucky to have the career that we've had. I mean, they've always said to me, "What's the success? What do you suggest, for new people coming up? What's your formula or whatever?" And I said, just work harder than everybody else. When everybody's sleeping, you're still working. I said, that's what I did. All I did was all about work and writing and singing and playing and getting better and writing songs. And that's why, I wrote 80% of April Wine songs. I produced them, I published them, and so forth, because you have to work hard. And it's the same with anything you do in this life. It's got to be 100% at least if you want to have a chance to succeed. And but at any rate, this song "Rock and Roll's a Vicious Game," it was an observation of people that tried really hard and they loved it, but it just didn't happen for them. And then there were the greats that just succumbed to the pressures and the lifestyle and everything. Yeah, but yet, April Wine and myself are not invited in a lot of things, and I see the same old faces, the same old people that are invited to everybody. And I think part of it today, and for some time, has been management too. If you have a certain kind of managers, they will make things happen. They will open doors, and they will always keep your name there, right at the tip of people's tongues,
Right.
and you just, and the more successful you are, of course. But I see a lot of Canadian groups that they're part of everything. And I'm never asked to do hardly anything, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
And sometimes it kind of bugs me, but on the other hand, it's what it is. I don't worry about it. I think one of the things that really kind of sums up my side of what's been going on, and I'm very fortunate. I've had a great career, and I have no complaints really. Is people, a lot of people I know have been inducted into the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame, and I haven't. And I'm just saying, what do I have to do? I've been writing hits for over 50 years. Even my blues records were successful, Juno nominated. I wrote everything. I'm a songwriter.
Right.
Why? And friends of mine, Rita McNeil was just inducted, but the one before that, was Kim Mitchell and other people I know. So I always send them a message. I'll call them. They say, "Hey, Kim, congratulations on being inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame." I said, "What do I have to do to get in there?" He says, "You're kidding me."
Right.
I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You're not there?" He said, "Man, you should have been there decades ago." I said, "Yeah, well, they kind of ignore me. And I don't know why."
Well, look.
But you know what I do is I just keep doing what I keep doing. I keep
Yeah.
doing what I do.